and gents, and everything in between, welcome to the Aid Thompson Show. Trading as, or more commonly known as, Aid Thompson and Other Disappointments. Guys, welcome. Episode 256 now of the podcast. What's going on out there? What's happening? If it's your first time tuning in, welcome. Pull up a seat. I always say this, crack open a beer, pour yourself a wine, roll yourself a bifter. Whatever the medicine is that you need to help you recover from the chaos and despair of the modern world out there, you just go ahead and self-medicate. There is no judgment here in these four walls. Big doff of the cap to the Patreons and the YouTube community backers joining us tonight. I say tonight, it's Thursday lunchtime for me. I'm pre-recording this one. I was just saying, last week, how, I'm really enjoying doing the Friday night live streams now. I really am. I like the live chat, I like getting everyone involved. I like giving you all a question and you share your thoughts and stories with me and we periodically go back to it. Plus then I'm doing the hashtags and I'm trying to get people, doing that, and maybe it'll trend one week, maybe. Probably not, but, it's about 250 people now tune in for the Friday night shows. So, it's possible 250 people, if they all started tweeting with that hashtag, it probably would show up somewhere, I think. But anyway, yes, the last couple of weeks I've been saying how much I've been enjoying these shows. And I look forward to doing them, and maybe I won't even book guests anymore, that sort of. And then this week I was just thinking Friday night, what should I do? What little skits, what little sections shall I do for the Friday night show? And now this week I was like, oh God, I've completely forgotten. I booked tickets for Rosie Holt's live show. She's performing local to me, just down the road in Farnham. And so, look, if ever there was a good reason to not do a Friday night show and pre-record you, fob you guys off with a pre-recorded one, it's probably that look, guys, I've got tickets for Rosie Hall. I'm sure you would be all very understanding. I tagged her in the thing yesterday on Twitter. I said, no Friday night show from me this week, guys. I'm really sorry about that, but turns out I've forgotten I had tickets to Rosie Holt's thing. So then she replies back, and she's like, something along the lines of, it's really, this is a good reason for you to miss that show. I'm sure people will understand, that sort of thing. And I was like, yeah, I considered live streaming my face on YouTube as I'm watching your live show, but I just felt like that might be weird, maybe you don't know this, but sometimes when I say something weird to somebody that I think is funny, there's always that 5-minute window, if it's online, there's that 5-minute window of fear where I'm like, oh God, they are going to think, that is weird, Aid? The thing that you're talking about, that would be weird, but not as weird as you manufacturing that idea in your head and saying it to someone who you don't actually know that well. There's always that fear. It's oh God, here comes the block. Here comes the muting. But no, she replied back. She was like, seems like a good idea, Raid. Crack on, sort of thing. So anyway, happy Friday, guys. Happy Friday night. I hope you're enjoying a glass of wine and you got a beer on the go. Tonight's Friday night question for the live chat, because there will still be a live chat. Tonight's question for you guys to share amongst yourselves. Are you ready? Given that matey a couple of weeks ago stood down. Do you remember he was a Tory MP and he said he just couldn't stick with the Conservatives with the underfunding of the NHS because this guy has experience in the NHS. I think he was a psychiatrist, wasn't he? Mental health professional. So he stood down. Given that Nadim Zahawi has just said, I'm not going to be standing at the next general election. And he's just the latest guy who said, I'm not going to bother contesting this seat because the writing's on the wall for them, right? So Nadim Zahawi, this guy that defected, I think, to Labour, didn't he, a couple of weeks ago? And now we've just had Natalie Elphicke this week. And we're going to have loads who do contest this, like they do stick around for the general election, but they do get voted out. It's going to be a bloodbath, right? Here is my question for you guys tonight, who are good enough to still pitch up. What are the post-parliamentary careers that you can imagine the Tories getting sucked into or having to begrudgingly do after they're voted out, after they've stood down, they're not going to contest the seat, after they've defected, but then they actually lose the whip from the Labour Party for saying something horrendously racist, because they are Tories, really, aren't they? I mean, they might change their rosettes. They might say, oh, okay, I'm not wearing a blue rosette anymore. I'm going to wear a red one. No, it doesn't work like that. It's who you are underneath, guys. After they've lost the whip for the Tory actually coming out in 2 or 3 months, what are the funniest, let's just, because that's what we're looking for here, is comedic mileage, right? What are the funniest post-parliamentary careers that you can see these guys going into? You know, what job do you think Lee Anderson is going to end up doing once he's turfed out at the general election? What job can you imagine Scott Benton doing now that he's been deselected and then the Conservatives have lost his seat, so there's no coming back for him? What job do you think Jeremy Hunt will be good at when he's turfed out of, where is it he represents? Somewhere in Surrey, isn't it? Not a million miles away from where I am. What jobs can you imagine these people, specifically with their character, with their attributes, what jobs can you imagine them doing after the election? That's tonight's question. Now, what should we talk about? While you guys in the live chat are thinking about those options, who's going to make a good this, who would make a good that after they're no longer an MP, what should we talk about? The broader group of listeners and viewers. So there was a new poll out today at time of recording. I don't know if you've seen it. Here you go. YouGov. Voting intention. This is where they phone around or they send people surveys, or anyone that logs on to YouGov might be hit with a modal, like, do you want to try this voting intention? So it's basically going across the country, a sample subset of people, and they say, who are you planning on voting for if there was like a general election tomorrow or next week or whatever? The Westminster voting intention. And for the last year or so, Labour have had a lead of about 20 to 25 points. I think the most I've seen it is 26 points. Guys, it's now up to 30. Woo! Yeah! 30-point lead, guys. 30 points is what Labour are now polling as in the lead for. It's actually quite incredible, isn't it? I mean, think of how many different resets, rebrands, how many relaunches Rishi Sunak's administration have attempted in the last, 6 months or a year? I think I talked about this a few weeks ago, didn't I? How there was there was AI Sunak, sitting there interviewing Elon Musk. There was a Tough Decisions Sunak when he cancelled the HS2. I'm the guy who tells it how it is, all right? I wish I could tell you that there's a magic money tree, but there isn't. We can't afford this, so that's why I'm giving you the tough... Labour are just fantasy land, which is, somewhat ironic, considering it's the Conservative government who have been coasting on fantasy for the last, 6 years? But anyway, that was just 2 of the iterations that we've enjoyed of Rishi Sunak over the last, 6 months. And, man, it doesn't seem like he can catch a break, does it? Doesn't matter how they present him. what words they write and test out in focus groups. Doesn't matter if he bangs on about hate marches and tries to take charge of that whole situation. If he says, look, we're a patient country, we're a welcoming country, but our patience is not endless. Do you remember that? Outside Number 10. They've tried every type of incarnation of character that they can. I mean, I've not seen somebody this unsuccessfully cast in different character roles since the Mel C solo album. Which is... Maybe I'm showing my age here a little bit. I sense that we're all of a similar vintage, though. Do you remember the Mel C solo album? So you had the Spice Girls, and then all of the... Like, once the Spice Girls split up, they all went off and did their solo projects, right? And you had Jerry Halliwell, who was a sort of unlikely, legit pop star out of all it. She didn't have the strongest voice, did she? She was actually quite sort of vocally weak, I always thought. And I don't think she was particularly, perfectly tuned with her vote. I'm really going off on a tangent here, aren't I? I promise we'll get back onto some party political stuff or current affairs in a minute. But just humour me for a second, would you? Just be patient. But yeah, so you had Jerry Halliwell's solo album, which is like the look at me, ba 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 ba, all of that stuff, right? And then you had Mel B. She did some R&B stuff with Missy Elliott. You had Victoria Beckham. She did the stuff with Dane Bowers. And I think, did she do another thing? I'm sure she did a couple of different tracks. And then you had Mel C, who weirdly, she was vocally the strongest in the Spice Girls. That's why it's always her at the end of the songs, like doing all the ad-libs, like, hey, like real, strength to her lungs. Anyway, her solo album, man, was like, I don't know what the strategy was there, but she did like one R&B song with Lisa Left Eye Lopez. Can't remember what it was called now. It's pretty good though. And then she did a trance, like dancey one. And then her first single was a sort of indie rock thing. Was it called like Coming Down? Or it was like her in a sort of grungy basement with her hair cut all short. And it was like every single that came out was a different genre. Every video, she just looked a little bit different. And as a sum of its parts, I'm not sure that album was a roaring success. Sort of confused. Like, you'd get into it because you're a fan of R&B, and then the next single would come out, and you'd be like, well, I don't know what this is. Seems like you're alienating the people you just brought in. Maybe there's a lesson in there for the Labour Party. I don't know. Drag this kicking and screaming back to politics. Maybe there's a lesson in there for old Keir Starmer. Now that he's welcomed Natalie Elphicke in, Natalie Elphicke, who some describe, I'm not sure I would describe her as this, but some have called her far right. I always think of far right as, true blue racist. I don't think anyone's suggesting she's said anything racist, are they? I think she's just, quite cruel and mean-spirited when it comes to free school meals and quite ignorant when it comes to trade unions and all that. But yeah, anyway, I don't know. Like, maybe if you try to appeal to the Natalie Elphicks, if you try to appeal to the centre-right, the austerity fans, the people who disparage unions, all that, maybe you alienate the core base, is what I'm saying. You can't... when you try to please everyone, you please nobody. I think that's what I'm, sort of clumsily trying to get out here. I mean, a lot of people have mocked Natalie Elphicke for this, saying that she's just trying to save her own skin, aren't they? A lot of other people are saying, well, she was agreeing to stand down anyway at this election, so her defection to Labour is really just about bashing Sunak. It's not going to change her career in any way. They're not going to bring her into the Labour Party long term. She's literally just doing this for a few months and then she's off. And I think it was Emily Maitlis and John Sopel on the Newsagents podcast last night. They were like, they've established she's not getting a peerage for this. She's not going to be rehired as the MP, going forward into the next parliament. It seems very unlikely. What is in it for her? Does she just hate Rishi Sunak? What does she gain from this? Labour sort of gain by the communication, by the narrative that even your own people are leaving you, crossing the floor. But what does Natalie Elphicke get out of it? Maybe that should be our question for tonight. Or maybe we could hone down the previous question, what are these people going to do once they leave office? What is Natalie Elphicke going to do? Where is this headed for her? I said on the morning paper review this morning, a lot of people are really cynical about this stuff. They say that people can't change. They say a leopard never changes its spots, Aid. And I was saying, well, I will kindly point you to Natalie Elphicke and Russell Brand, guys, because Elphicke's out there demonising the free school meals and cheering on austerity, and Russell Brand's out there with his, rape and sexual assault charges being questioned by police. But both of them have just, they've just turned over a new leaf, haven't they? They've just changed. They've just changed, guys. She's turned it all around, hasn't she? That's what's happened. Natalie Elphicke, it's not careerist, it's not opportunistic, it's not vengeful, if indeed, she is just trying to bash Sunak and cause him problems. It's none of that. It's just that she's turned her life around. She took a long, hard look at herself in the mirror and she was like, I want to be the change that I wish to see in the world. She's changed from right-wing to what Suella Braverman called a party of hard-left maniacs. That's what she's done. She's gone from right-wing to hard-left maniacs. And if Suella Braverman has decided you're a maniac, that is like Ant McPartlin going, are you sure you're okay to cycle home after that shandy? Are you sure? If anyone knows about political lunacy, it's Suella Braverman. She absolutely is the authority on this one. Anyway, yes, Elphicke has changed from right to, quote, hard left maniac. So, if these two can change, guys, some would say at the most financially convenient moment for both of them. Elphicke, perhaps she's teeing up. Maybe she will get given a peerage, or maybe she will be kept on by the Labour Party, and it will work out financially positive for her. So it's financially convenient for her. Maybe it's financially convenient for Russell Brand as well, if he can just stay out of prison to continue earning money. If he can say that he's a Christian now, he's a good guy, If these two can change, here's another question for you. What's your excuse? If Russell Brand can change from being accused of sexual assault and rape and be questioned twice by the police, and there's 5 different unconnected women all alleging that he's treated them in a very similar way, if he can change from being that to a River Thames bathing Catholic Christian good man, and you're seriously telling me you can't just magically change into going to the gym 2 days a week? You can't make that really? Okay, well, I guess that's just your character, isn't it? If only you could be as pure as Russell. Anyway, so that's been fun, hasn't it? That's been fun this week. I still don't really understand why Labour let her in Like, what's in it for them? Like, yes, they get to say, look, your own MPs are coming over this way. But is that of greater political value, with PR, with media? Is that of greater political value than the detriment or detrimental effect of all of us lot going, oh, nice one. Jesus. You bellend kid. Does it stack up? Is what I'm wondering. Is it better to have a couple of lines like I mean, it is always better to have a couple of lines, we know that. But is it better to have, a couple of lines in the Times or the Telegraph where you can say, look, even their own MPs are leaving it. Like, does that win you more supporters than allowing a Diane Abbott or a Femi back into the Labour Party would, honest, like, you're leaving Diane Abbott out and letting this bitch in. Like, really? Like, what is actually wrong with you? I mean, in my opinion, just my opinion, shoot me down for it if you like. It's just my opinion. I think Diane Abbott should have been given a lifetime pass to the Labour Party purely for that mojito on the train incident. I really do. Lifetime pass. Like, I'm not kidding, guys. Like, I think if Nick Ferrari asks you your numbers, quizzes you, challenges at you on your numbers if you know your stuff, sort of thing. I think if he does that after you've been papped, having the cocktail equivalent of train beers, I think for life, you just get to look at Nick Ferrari, look at whoever it is that's trying to catch you out with their gotcha questions. I think you get to look up at them and just go, really though, really? And then I think you get to just pull open, crack open a can of porn star martini right there in the studio. I think you have that right, Diane. Anyway, by the time you guys hear this and you're tuning in on Friday night, Elphicke will be old news, of course, won't it? The bulletins, the websites, the headlines all change so quickly now that, one of the reasons I like doing the Friday night show live is because then if a news story explodes that day, we can just talk about it then and there. We can have it in a live chat. It's like a current topic of we can, as it's breaking on the news. But obviously we can't do that tonight, as this is pre-recorded. So I thought, let's just find a news story that's out there that will be a little bit more timeless. This is another reason why I quite like doing Americana news story, weird and wonderful news stories, is because then you're not restricted. You're not beholden to the news cycle and surfing the zeitgeist of the journo-political sphere. So, something I wanted to talk about tonight was, I don't know if you guys are aware of him, he's Robert F. Kennedy over in the US, right? This is sort of still political news, obviously, but I can't imagine that it would have troubled many of my my regular viewers, because so much of what we talk about is UK specific. And if we do delve into America's politics, it tends to be about Trump or Biden, right? So, this is from Sky News, man, right? It says Robert F. Kennedy, who has become something of a cult hero in recent years, right? Here he is. Here he is on my browser. Robert F. Kennedy. I think a few of Joe Rogan's guests sort of amped him up a bit, I think. Or maybe he's been a guest on Joe. There's some sort of connection there, I think. Plus, I think this guy, Robert F. Kennedy, I think he's got fans in the Russell Brand corners of the internet as well. Make of that what you will. Anyway, then Robert F. Kennedy, right? So he used to be a Democrat, I think, just like his uncle, great uncle, would it be? I don't know. But then he's recently, in recent years, he's got in with the anti-vax crowd, and his own family came out saying that he was spreading misinformation about vaccines. And there's a thing on, I think it's theweek.com, that said he was likening the vaccine rollout to the Holocaust. Right? So there's unfortunate quotes that have been attributed to him. He seemed to suggest that COVID was a bioweapon that was created to target specific races. That was him as well. He was... Oh, this was my favourite. I remember this one now. This is really getting into some Alex Jones kind of territory here. He appeared to suggest that there are chemicals out there that governments, plural, are using to turn kids gay and trans. I mean, look, I'm not saying they're wrong. I am. I'm not saying, he's ignorant and weird. I mean, the irony here, of course, is that, it's quite possible this is a guy himself who has inhaled weird chemicals enough in his life that it's left him mentally unwell and, blethering this nonsense. It's like, Rob, what you doing? Why is there brown powder around your nostrils again? What have you been taking? And his eyes roll back, and he starts convulsing, foaming at the mouth. John Travolta just barges in and smashes his heart with the adrenaline needle. Meanwhile, 3 of his staff are like, no! Don't wake him up. Don't. No, please. Please. They wake him up, he regains consciousness and starts babbling utter nonsense again? Anyway, that Robert F. Kennedy, nephew to JFK, as I understand it, ex-heroin addict, anti-vaxxer. The chemicals are turning the kids gay, that guy. You will be shocked to hear that he has revealed that a worm ate part of his brain and then died. A worm has eaten part of his brain, he said, and then it died. That is honestly what he is on record as saying. Look at it. I got the article here. Sky News. It sounds like something off The Onion, doesn't it? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says a worm ate part of his brain and then died. He said he had been having memory loss and mental fogginess, and so contacted neurologists who spotted a dark spot on his brain scans. They said he had a tumour, but another doctor believed he had a dead parasite in his head, the New York Times has reported. I mean, who's going to tell him? Who's going to break it to him? Who's going to pull Robert F. Kennedy Jr. aside and, look at his rap sheet, point to his history, and go Rob, I got to talk to you about this. Bobby, come here. You've been talking some crazy shit. You've been speaking demonstrably unscientific garbage for 5 years. 5 years. You've been talking this stuff. None of it makes sense, Bobby. It's baseless. But you have been fervently, frenetically convincing almost everybody that will listen to you that you are a political lunatic who can't be taken seriously. I mean, I say almost everybody, but it's quite possible Keir Starmer's Labour Party would welcome you with open arms. Still, they are a broad church, I hear. Who's going to tell him? Who's going to break it to him? Look, you've been talking nonsense, Bobby. We did a scan. You see these dark patches, these dark spots on your brain scan. That means you're brain damaged, Rob. I'm what? It means you're retarded, Bobby. That's what that means. But I'm what? I don't understand. Like, look, this is the section here of the brain that allows you to handle like rational, critical thought, right? And you see how it's all dead? It's, yeah. Over here, this is the bit that allows you to just take care of like functional things, like picking up a can of Pepsi, right? Writing some things on Twitter. It's your general processes is taken care of. That side of things is fine. Well, all right. I mean, like, so you could pick up a cup of coffee, you know, you can order something. That's fine. But what? Well, what if I told you, Bobby, that Joe Biden was trying to make the kids gay, but he was doing it to reduce the overall birth rate, because then those gay kids will grow up and they probably won't have kids of their own. And then that will make the next generation of babies a finite resource and immeasurably more valuable on the paedophile exchange. Oh my God, is that true? No, it's not true. I'm saying if it was. So you're saying it's not true now? What? It was never true, Bobby. I'm just saying if I was to tell you that, well, a minute ago you said it was true, but now you're rowing back. No, I said if I were to tell you, well, what's changed between then and now? How did they get to you? Oh my God, no, nobody has got to me, Bobby. I'm not compromised. I'm just saying. No, I'm just saying that you said that Joe Biden wants to turn our precious American children gay so that then they won't have babies. Beautiful American babies. And then babies will be the finite resource, you said. And they'll be more valuable. And supply and demand. They'll be more valuable on the paedophile exchange. You said that, but now you're rowing back. It's like you said too much. Oh God, Bobby. It's the dark spots, Bobby. It's the you got no critical thought, no critical think. You're brain dead, Bobby. You're brain dead. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, he reckons a worm crawled inside his head and died, which is, I mean, you know, if you were coming closer and closer to an American election and you were an independent candidate like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., right? I don't know, like maybe saying a worm crawled inside your head and died and that's why there's a dark spot there, maybe that's more palatable than saying you're brain dead. You know? Maybe that's like everyone has to go through a physical examination and they see that he's like brain dead. Oh, no, don't worry. I'm totally not brain dead. I'm not, I promise. It's a little worm, like a parasite went in there. That's what, it's not that I'm insane or sociopathic with the dark spots. That's another thing, isn't it? Sociopaths have dark spots in their brain or something. Maybe it's more palatable to the American electorate if he says there's a dead worm in my head. I don't know. I mean, I don't know masses about American politics and American marketing, you know, therein. But, I mean, you know, the little that I do know about it, I honestly think it might be more relatable if he said he's half vegetable. I mean, I think to the American masses. He just like us. Yeah, there you go. All right. Anyway, let's move on, shall we? I've got another story I want to touch on this evening. Maybe we should check back in on our live chat. This is normally the point, if it was a live show, where I would check back in with the live chat, with those fantasy jobs that you think the Tories should go on to. Like, what is Lee Anderson cut out for? What should Natalie Elphicke do? What should Penny Mordaunt do after they're thrown into the parliamentary dustbin? Keep those suggestions coming. I'll have a look back at them once I make it out of Rosie Holt's live show. So I've got another interesting story. Well, it's half interesting. It depends if you are yourself interested in the threat to democracy that is artificial intelligence and, deep fakes and that sort of stuff. Long-time listeners will attest. This is an area where I have some credibility. I sort of predicted a lot of this stuff. So we're just on the cusp of it becoming a real problem with people faking video or faking audio of our political leaders to get them into trouble and destabilize whole countries, possibly. And this story sort of fits in to that. So I don't know if you guys saw it. It also taps into Americana nicely. It's on the Indie 100 website, which I never know what the deal is with the Indie, Independent, the Eye. All of them feel like the Independent, but they're all... are they the same company? I just don't know. Anyway, it's on the Indie 100 website. Here it is. Former gym teacher allegedly uses AI to frame the high school principal. So, let's get into this, shall we, guys? Former gym teacher allegedly uses artificial intelligence to frame the principal of the high school in which he worked. It says a gym teacher has been arrested after allegedly attempting to frame the principal by using an AI voice cloning service. A report from the Baltimore Banner says Baltimore County Police believe audio that was circulated of the Pikesville High School principal, Eric Eiswert, making racist and anti-Semitic comments was fake. It says experts explained to police that the recording has a flat tone, usually or unusually clean background sounds, and a lack of consistent breathing sounds or pauses. So the PE gym teacher guy has framed the principal, that's what we're saying, with a deep fake of the guy, dropping the N-word? Or was it something like along those lines, right? The recording had briefly resulted in Mr. Eiswert's suspension and caused him and his family to be harassed for months off the back of this thing. It says Baltimore County Police is then reported to trace the recording to Dazon Darian, a former athletic director at the school whose name was also mentioned in the audio clip. It is alleged that he used school computers to access open AI tools and Microsoft Bing chat services, according to reports from NBC News. He was also linked to the audio's release via an email address and associated recovery phone number. What a rookie. So he did it on a school computer, and they matched it to him because it was an email. I guess it's a, anonymous email account, but then they found that the recovery phone number matched to his phone number. So he left a nice little bread trail there. What a moron. And then on April the 25th, Darian was arrested at the airport by police. Okay, so, they actually did some detective work here. That's the real story here, isn't it, guys? The cops did some detective work. Like, normally, I don't want to get all, making a murderer on you here. But honestly, I feel like the number of, wrongful prosecutions, wrongful imprisonment, people being exonerated, convictions that get quashed, crooked cops, the number of stories that we've all seen, right? I feel like if the police in the US, or over here, by the way, if they get a theory in their heads that they think would pass the mustard, with the county prosecutors or the Crown Prosecution Service over here, I think if they get a theory and they think it would pass that test, then I think they're just like, yeah, we solved it. We've solved it. We've cracked the case, guys. All right. Who wants to go for a beer? That's the sort of vibe I get with the cops in America and the police over here. It's like they've got someone that fits the bill. Yeah. Well, we like the kid for this one. We're going to send the kid down. Are you sure? Yeah. Yeah, I think the evidence that'll get a prosecution. That's fine. That'll get us a conviction. Okay. What about if he did it or not? Well, I don't really care about that. I care about numbers. Successful prosecutions on my profile for promotion at the end of, it's like that sort of vibe. But yeah, it sounds like in this case, guys, they actually listened to the recording. And they were like, oh, this doesn't sound 100% legit. I mean, I guess like some of this must have come down to the guy that got fired, right? The guy who was getting harassed. Because like if you got fired for a thing that you didn't do, I mean, you're gonna ask why, aren't you? We're gonna have to let you go, Pete. Yeah, you're a horrendous racist. What? Based on what? Based on a recording that we've heard. Well, can I listen to the recording? All right. You play it to him. He's not gonna go like he hears the audio of himself dropping the N-bomb. Or, do you know what I mean? Like, you're gonna kind of know that tape is fake, aren't you? You're gonna start pointing out inconsistencies in the audio. You're probably gonna call the police about it. I would. I mean, that's what gets me about this sort of story, right? It's not that it happens. It's obvious it's going to happen, right? I'm gobsmacked this sort of thing doesn't happen more, to be honest with you. Like, 11 Labs is right there. How are there not more stories about angry sociopathic teenagers, who thought they'd get an A and they ended up with a C or a D, and then it's ruined their whole life and they blamed the teacher and they're sociopathic kids. So then they go onto 11 Labs and they generate a grainy voice of their teacher dropping some slurs to get them into trouble, to get even with them. Like, how does that not happen? How has that not happened a billion times already? So it doesn't shock me that this has happened, that there are people out there that do this. What surprises me is that it never occurs to the person who's doing it that the other person, like, wait, what do they expect? They just go, oh, well, I have no recollection of ever saying that, and it sounds very questionable. But, okay, well, you caught me sort of red-handed, but like they're just going to shrug and go, oh, all right. Like, I guess I forgot I said that shit. I'm usually pretty tight-lipped with those feelings, but I guess I let it slip that day. Like, really? Do you really think this gym teacher matey was just going to roll over, Like, you know what? I've been thinking about a career move. This is as good a time as any, I suppose. Like, how dumb do you have to... How much of a colourful shapes and day trips to the farm moron do you have to be? How many RFK dark patches do you need in your brain to assume that person's just going to go, oh, is that me? Is it? All right. Yeah, okay, I'll pack up my things. I'll get my coat. I mean, do you know what? Even if you do get cast as a racist gym teacher, do you know what you should do, right? You should listen to the recording. You should take it all in. You should listen to yourself dropping the N-word, calling Asian kids, this, that, and the other. You should listen to the audio, right? And then, just as it's getting to the end, you should press the stop button on the tape player, and you should just go, yeah, but you know what? That was me. I admit it. You know what, though? I've changed. You've what? I know it seemed on the tape there like I was racist, like I was hugely prejudiced, violently prejudiced and ignorant. I know it sounded like that when I was dropping the N-bomb and calling the kids, whatever, but I've changed. I've changed just now at the moment that was the most financially and politically convenient for me. Just like Natalie Elphicke and Russell Brand. People can change, don't you know? That used to be me there. But now it's inconvenient to be that. So here I am. Literally and figuratively brand new. It's the all-new me. So I guess should we just put that away in a locker or something? And I've got a class at 2:30. It says, in a statement, the authorities said it's believed Darian, who was an athletic director at Pikesville High, made the recording to retaliate against Mr. Eiswert, who at the time was pursuing an investigation into the potential mishandling of school funds. So, there's layers to this. Of course that's what this is really all about. You know? Dude steals some money, allegedly. Someone starts looking into it. Somebody starts investigating. Where did the money go? We had $3,000 in the little cash box thing from the school fete and the tombola, or, whatever. Do they do tombolas and fates and stuff in America? I have no idea. We got $3,000 and now it's gone. Well, we better look into this. And anyway, this guy maybe thinks that he's in line for the blame, rightly or wrongly. We don't know who's taken this money. This mishandling of school funds. Anyway, this guy allegedly then fakes audio of the guy who's looking into it to make it sound like he's saying some rather unfortunate, hugely problematic things, right? And he thinks that's going to get the guy out of the way. Problem solved. But instead, the whole thing blows up in his face. Boom. I mean, how do we wrap this up? We've been going for about an hour now, I think, haven't we? How do we wrap this one up? How do we send you guys on your way to Labour Social, which of course starts at 9 o'clock? Or indeed the pub, Wherever it is that you guys are off to this Friday night, how are we going to wrap this up? Honestly, I don't know. Not sure. I'll just say this. Here we go. If you find yourself out of work, maybe you're being investigated for misappropriation of funds, either in the gym teacher way or perhaps a Donald Trump campaign finance trial of some description. If you find yourself out of work, if you end up like Russell Brand, accused of rape and sexual assault, if you end up accused of dropping multiple racial slurs, or you find yourself ostracized from the various social functions of the Conservative Party because perhaps you've joined the opposition or something. All I'm saying at this point, now, at the end of the show, guys, if that's you, if you're ostracized, let go, whatever, right, if that's you, there will always be a place for you here, guys. Not here in the Binfluencer cult, with the Binfluencer Booge faithful in the live chat or in the Discord chat with the Patreons and the YouTube community backers, or the Skype 1-to-1 calls, or the London-based meetups, of which I actually need to organise another one. Need to pull my finger out. You wouldn't be welcome at any of those things if you are a Russell Brand, an Elphicke, or a, somebody that's dropping racial slurs or trying to frame other people for doing the same. I'm just saying, you're not welcome in any of those places. But there will always be a place for you here. Here as cannon fodder for me to maul as the subjects that I target every week with my acerbic, caustic, unforgiving, and at times downright hateful, belligerent mocking. How's that for a finish? I was about to say there's always a place for you, just broadly YouTube, but for Russell Brand, I don't think that's actually true any longer. I think he's like full on banned from YouTube, isn't he? Anyway, look, what a weird ending. Thank you so much to the Patreon backers and the YouTube community members. I will be organising another in-person meetup. It will take place in London, probably in June now. I hope that's enough notice. Probably like mid to late June. I need to work that out yet. Need to talk to the missus, work out childcare, work out which weekend in June is going to be the least catastrophic to completely upend her weekend. So I'll do that. Don't forget, if you haven't joined the Patreon yet, there are Skype one-to-one calls. I'm going to do another batch of those very soon. There's a Discord chat. I pop in there most days, and we talk about politics, latest developments. What else? You get episodes of the podcast 2 days before everybody else. And you get named and shamed at the end of shows. Or at the beginning of shows, sometimes. I got a new Patreon intro at the moment, haven't I? But I need to update it with a couple of new names. Here's the names of the Patreons as they stand today. These are the guys on the Certified Aid Thompsoner tier, God forgive me. Patreon and YouTube starts at like £3 a month, so it's like proper cheap. And for that £3, you get the podcast like 2 days early. But as you go up, like £5, and then is it £10 after that? You start getting more benefits, and at the £5 level, you start getting credited at the end like this. So big ups to all of you guys. That's it for now. I'll be back next week for the midweek solo show. Thanks again. I'll also be back next Friday night with an actual like proper live show. But until then, take care of yourselves. Keep it booge. Keep it #Binfluencer, and we are out this motherfucker. Booge.